Hi, welcome back to the channel. On this July 4th weekend, we are actually going to be trying to celebrate our users, and we're going to use AI to do that. We are going to pit ChatGPT against Gemini, and as you can see, this is the ChatGPT version of both fireworks and confetti, and this is the Gemini version of both fireworks and confetti. So if you'd like to learn how this competition turned out, then stay tuned. Let's learn together. So here we are in our brand new Xcode project, and as you can see, we haven't gotten started just yet, so let's actually open up our Swift Assist integration with ChatGPT, and let's let ChatGPT go first and see how it does. So let's ask ChatGPT, I want to celebrate my users in the app. I want you to create a view that drops some confetti when the user clicks a button. And now we'll copy that before we submit it, and let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. All right, it looks like ChatGPT has got us a confetti view going now. So let's go over this and actually see what we've got. So it looks like you can set the number of confetti that you want to drop. And this is a confetti offsets. So it looks like, I'm not sure what that is right offhand. Okay, so it's the offset for basically where it's going to display, it looks like. And then is it animating true or false? Okay, so it'll use that for the animation. Nice. So it looks like we'll create an array of, or we'll for each over from 0 to the number of confetti that we want, and our confetti shape will be a circle, okay? And then when the view appears, we will start animating this view and dropping the confetti. So it'll ease in, and then it will delay for a little bit, okay? And then it looks like we've got a generation method here that is creating certain confetti at certain X and Y locations. And nice, okay, so we've got a random color. So where is that being used? Okay, cool. So that's being used on the fill. Nice, that's not too bad. It looks like it also gave us a button. And the button triggers the show confetti and then sets it to trigger after 2 seconds, it looks like. Then it will turn the confetti off. All right, and if it works, then it will overlay and show the confetti. So let's give it a shot. Let's see how it turned out. Okay, that's kind of weird. It shoots confetti out of the bottom of the button. But as you can see, it does have a little bit of a spring effect. Let's raise that up just a little bit so we can see where it stops at the bottom. Okay, I do like the little bit of a spring effect. That's kind of cool. But it's weird that it shot the confetti out of the bottom. Let's see if it does any better with fireworks. So let's go back over to our project navigator, and we will create a new file with Command N, and that will be a new Swift view. And we will call this our ChatGPT fireworks view, and we'll create that. And now we'll go back over to our ChatGPT integration here with our coding assistant, and we will ask it to create a fireworks view. So now let's say I want this view to display fireworks to celebrate the user when they click a button. And let's see what it does. Nice. Okay, it looks like it gave us a fireworks button here. And let's scroll through the code and kind of see if we can figure out what it's doing first. So we've got a particle count, so that's probably the number of items that it will display. And we've got a radius for each of those and an is animating state. Okay, that's pretty similar to what we had before. Same thing here for eaching, and this time we're doing a capsule. Okay, so that's interesting. Filling it with our random color down here. And then we are changing the offset, okay? And then, oh, nice. So it looks like we're going to rotate the fireworks too. So that'll be cool. And then we're scaling it. If it is animating, we're scaling it up to 1.2. Otherwise, it's just 1. So we'll see how well that one works out. And then for our view down here, all right, cool. It looks like along the same lines as what we did in our previous one with confetti, where after 2 seconds, we will turn off the animation. And then we've got an overlay with our fireworks view. Nice. So let's give it a shot and see what this one looks like. Okay. I actually do like that one a little bit better. That one's kind of cool. Very cool. So now that ChatGPT has had its chance, let's come back over to our project navigator and let's create a couple new views. And we will call this one Gemini Confetti View. And we'll create one more, and we will call this one Gemini Fireworks View. There we go. And now let's give Gemini a shot and see how well it works. So we will copy our prompt here, and then we will paste that into Gemini, and we'll see what we get. Okay, well, it looks like it actually gave us HTML. That's not quite what I was going for, so let's go back and specify that I want this code in Swift UI. Nice, okay, so it looks like it's got our code. So let's go ahead and we will copy the code here. And let's paste it into our Gemini Confetti view. All right. So it looks like it named it the same thing. So let's call this our Gemini Confetti view here. And then that's going to conflict with this view that we created whenever we created the file. So let's get rid of this one. And now this old preview initializer is for a confetti view that is not the one that we're looking for. So we want to display the Gemini confetti view. Nice. Okay. That actually looks really, really good. Let's go back and look at the code and let's see what the code gives us. So we've got a confetti particle here. Okay, that's a really nice way of doing it. Now, as you can see, there is one big difference between ChatGPT and using an outside coding tool like Gemini, and that is all our documentation for what this code does is actually built into the code with Gemini, whereas you can actually see the instructions over here. But if you remember, and we go back and look, nothing was actually put in our code to tell us what any of this stuff does. So there's a little bit of trade-off right there of having the context whenever it's generated is kind of nice. So going back to our confetti view, as we can see, we're generating an array of particles, starting off with an empty array, and then we get to choose our colors here, and nice, it even tells us what the colors will be. And then we've got our nice linear gradient for the background. Okay, that looks good. And we're celebrating success. So this is just setting up the text. Here we are. So here's the button. So when you click the button, it calls a trigger confetti method, which is down here. Okay, and as we can see, we've got a number of particles is set to 80, and then we'll for each over from 0 to the number of particles. And it looks like it starts at the center at the very top and then ends in a random position at the bottom of the screen. Okay. And then we're creating a new particle here. And then we're adding those new particles to the array. All right. Very cool. And then it looks like these will eventually move to the end of the screen, rotate while they're falling, and then fade out. Nice. And it looks like this process will only take about 3 seconds. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. Oh, that's sad. It didn't actually work. Well, let's go back to Gemini and see if it can fix its own code. So let's go back and say it doesn't look like that code worked. the confetti never triggered. All right, so it's given us some new code here. So let's copy that new code and see how it turns out. So we'll replace our old code here with what Gemini gave us for the new code. And let's see, okay, so that's right. It didn't know that we renamed that file, so let's fix that. And then let's go back down here, and I'm sure it gave us an old preview, and it did. There we go. And it looks like it's having some build troubles. Let's see if there are any errors. I don't see any errors, so let's try rebuilding. There we go. Okay. Now let's just click the button and give it another shot and see if it did better on the second try. Okay. That was kind of sad, but a little better. It actually triggered the confetti and the confetti fell down. Nice. So far, I'm going to say that ChatGPT won that round. This view looks great. However, the execution of of what we wanted it to do, not so great. Let's give the fireworks view a shot. So let's go back to our coding assistant here, and let's copy our prompt for fireworks, and we'll give the same thing over to Gemini, and we'll see how that works out. So we pasted the same prompt in, and let's see what it gives us. All right, nice. It looks like it's given us all the code we need. So let's go ahead and copy that code, and let's go ahead and just drop that here into our view. So we will paste that code here, and invalid declaration. So let's change this to Gemini fireworks view. And then it looks like we've got some errors down here. Okay, and that's because it's previewing our other code. Let's get it to display the Gemini fireworks view here. Oh man, that looks really good. Here's hoping it actually works really well. So let's check these out. So it says immutable value of I was never used. Consider replacing it with an underscore, which just means it's not being used. So that's fine. We can do that. It says the new particle was never mutated. So replace the var with a let. So we can do that. Makes our app a little bit more performant that way. And then let's see what this warning says. Replace var with a let. Okay, so let's apply that. Nice. All right, so now it looks like we've cleared up all the warnings in our code. Let's actually go over it and see what we've got that that actually makes this thing work. So we've got our fireworks particle here, okay, and it looks like we've got an is rocket. That's interesting. So it's true if it's the initial rocket, or false if it's the explosion particles. All right, that sounds kind of cool. And then we've got our fireworks particle array here, and our random colors that we get to choose. All right, and then this is just setting up the text in the view. Okay, so we've got our trigger fireworks button, similar to how our trigger fireworks method, similar to what we had with the confetti. So it looks like it's getting the width and the height of the screen. And then we're creating a rocket, okay, and it takes a random horizontal launch position that starts near the bottom of the screen, and then it goes to a random height, and then we create the rocket particles, and then animate the rocket upwards, okay, cool. And then we schedule the explosion after the rocket reaches its peak. Very cool. So, and then we calculate a random angle and spread for the explosion of particles. Nice. And then we calculate the end position for the explosion particles and create a new explosion particle. All right. So this is a lot more complex than the one that ChatGPT gave us. Let's actually give it a shot and see how it works. So we'll just scroll back down. We'll just scroll back to our main view here, and we will click the button and check it out. Okay. It launched one firework. There was no multiple fireworks. Let's try it again. As you might can see that that's kind of small on the screen, even on the simulator for me, sitting right here in front of the computer. But we get one tiny firework. Let's see if Gemini could update that code to shoot off more than one rocket at a time. So let's go back to our code and let's let Gemini know that the rockets and explosion particles are too small. Can you make them larger? Nice. Okay, so we've got that code. So let's go ahead and copy that here. And we will just overwrite the other stuff that it's given us. And so we will highlight over all this code, paste over it, and then we'll need to fix this view again and let it know that this is the Gemini fireworks view. And we are going to have a few warnings still, but that's okay. It gave us another preview, so let's go back and get rid of that old preview. There we are. All right, so now it's got fireworks. Let's see if these are better fireworks. Okay, that actually was a little bit better. That should be fairly reasonable for a user sitting right here in front of the phone. So now let's ask Gemini if it can. We'll just let it know that that's great. Can you launch multiple rockets at the same time? Nice. Okay, so it looks like it's given us some more options here. So let's copy that code over. And again, we will just scroll back up to the top of our view and paste over what we've already got. And again, we'll change this to our Gemini fireworks view, and then we'll have to come back down here and get rid of this preview here. Cool. Looks like that was able to fix the build. So now let's give it a shot and see what multiple firework rockets look like when they're launched at the same time. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. Now it does look like there's some animation hitches going on, but that is actually kind of cool. So it looks like it's launching 3 rockets with unique starting positions. Let's see if we can find out where those rockets are. So we've got a number of rockets array. Cool. So we could actually change the number of rockets to launch simultaneously. Let's just see where the limits of this thing actually are and see if we can do 30 rockets at the same time and see if those animation hitches still exist. Oh yeah, those animation hitches are struggling right now. Okay, man, that was not great. That was pretty sad actually. Let's drop it down to 10 and see if it can do 10 without too much trouble. Okay, it was able to actually fire off all of the rockets, and none of them got hung. Too terribly bad anyway, so that's pretty good. Let's drop it down and let's just try 8. See if it does better with 8. We'll do 6 instead. Okay, yeah, 6 wasn't bad at all. Cool. There was still a little bit of animation hang in there, but I'd have to say that that was pretty good. Now, it depends on what you're looking for. To me, that's a lot closer to what I was looking for fireworks than what ChatGPT gave us. And again, just as a reminder, we can go back over here and check out what ChatGPT gave us, which was a swirling pinwheel of color. Not really a firework, or at least not what I think of when I think of fireworks. So I would say that even with the performance hit, Gemini actually got a lot closer to what I was thinking of as a firework. And so to me, that one goes to Gemini. But as far as confetti goes, the making it rain confetti, as you remember, that is what Gemini gave us. And ChatGPT gives us this. So I'm not really sure who won that one. I do like that it's at least shooting in a direction. Kind of thought confetti would go up, but that's just me, and then fall down. I don't normally want to shoot confetti down at the ground. That's just me. And that would honestly probably be easy enough to change in the code. So for this one, I would have to say it's a draw between ChatGPT and Gemini. ChatGPT seemed to actually give us a little bit better and more performant code, but Gemini actually got a lot closer to what we were looking for as the outcome of our view, even though it wasn't quite as performant as the version from ChatGPT. And with that, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want me to actually start digging into the performance of that SwiftUI view, then let me know by leaving a comment down below. Thanks, and have a great day.